I think we should be live now.
Yep. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on this live study group. As ever, I'm Paul and this is Alexandra. Today we don't have a topic in mind, we're just going to be looking at some tagged hands and giving our thought process on some of these hopefully unique spots.
Yeah, most of these hands are received from our students, and yeah, we're going to see how they play and what their thought process are. Before we dive into the hands, I would like to tell you that during this stream, if you subscribe to Run It Once Essential or Elite and you pay for 1 month, you can get a free month on top. And also, if you like the way we analyze these hands and you want to stay in touch with us, feel free to join our Discord community that Paul is going to link in the chat. And yeah, also for the to benefit from the promotion on Run It Once, you need to use the code stream at checkout. I think it was right.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, should we dive into it then?
Yeah, let's jump into some hands. Let's do it.
Okay, I think let's put this in big blind. Makes it much easier. So yeah, I was wondering why is he playing short stack, but it's actually dip. So he plays heads up. What? Yeah, I think this he converted some hands from coin poker using ChatGPT, and some things are weird. So we open from the bottom and villain folds, but then he calls. And the board is 8-4-5. As the previous stream, we are not really great playing heads up. Neither of us has really studied many heads up spots and much heads up theory, so don't want to dive too deep into these hands. I think heads up, this hand is probably gonna be like, I don't know, don't want to talk about it. Definitely checking back is not going to be a mistake. I'm not sure if we ever want to bet this. I don't know, anything to say here?
I'd say let's make this our only heads up hand and just skip any others. And yeah, I would imagine similar to button versus big blinds, 8-4-5 is probably going to be a very good board for our position, even heads up. And ace-10, I think is when it bets here is probably just going to be getting a lot of better hands to call and worse to fold. So I'd rather put this into my check back line and try and better some of villain's hands, right? So if we bet here and we keep his 10-2 of hearts in his range and the turn is a 10, obviously we dominate that type of hand on the turn, and same with his weaker ace highs as well, that would fold versus a bet. So yeah, I would put this into the check back range myself.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually not sure if this is a heads up hand or if it's a conversion issue, because our student said that these hands are actually all 6 max, and if it shows up otherwise, it's probably a conversion issue. So maybe we should just treat this as a button versus big blind spot.
Okay, cool.
Okay, goes check check, and now villain 42 bets 3/4. I think this size is not actually what should be used on this board. I agree that there are a bunch of draws that we are still ahead of, but the problem is we kind of block most of them, and we don't really have any other outs. We could be quite dead here, so I don't think I would continue this. Also, if you think about our flop checkback range, we are not supposed to bet here very often, so we're gonna have many better hands that can continue, especially against this size. I think I would just fold if we assume this is, again, button versus big blind in a 6 max table. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I think this size is whatever. I think it can be used. But yeah, I would just be folding here. I don't think there's much to talk about.
Okay,
Okay.
we do go for a call. Not sure what the thought process behind the call is. And now he goes for another small bet. I think if we get here, it would make some sense to bluff, but like, I don't think we should be here with this hand in the first place. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think we can just turn this hand into a bluff. I would never get here, but yeah, we block some strong hands like 9-10. We're gonna have a bunch of flushes that are obviously checking back flop, calling on turn. So yeah, I wouldn't hate going for a bluff here. Um, yeah, we're going to have loads of 9-10 as well because we're not going to be betting this flop at a huge frequency. So we will still have a bunch of 9-10 in our range as well, which obviously gets here. So yeah.
Yeah, and then if we also think about the sizing, I think this is played at 25 on L. I don't think people are going to be good enough to balance their one-third betting ranges here with enough strong hands, so I would say that's probably more of a reason to bluff this. But yeah, as we both mentioned, I don't think we should be here with this hand in the first place. In terms of sizing, I think this is... Yeah, I think this is fine considering how people play in practice. And even in theory, I think 9-10 is probably worth this size. Any thoughts on the sizing we should use?
No, I think this is fine. I think anywhere between 18 big blinds to this size to 30 big blinds, I think is all going to be close.
Yeah. And he does make the call, but we can see the showdown. Is this what happens? This is not what happens on coin poker. Like when they win, you do see the showdown, right?
Yeah, I think we should just skip over any of that are like this. We should have filtered these out before the stream, because I think people will want to see results.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're like this or not. I haven't seen them before, so...
Okay, let's go back to pre-flop here.
Okay.
Maybe we should just skip over any that have an ante because they will be on coin poker.
Well, yeah, all the hands that he sent are from coin poker, I think.
Right, okay.
Should we skip them?
Well, if we have other hands.
Yeah, I think this will be GG. Okay, so we 3-bet from the cutoff. We 3-bet small blind against cutoff with ace jack offsuit.
It's first MP.
MP. I don't think this will actually be a 3-bet very often against MP. It's probably going to be quite close, but then if we play against the recreational, this becomes much more of a 3-bet. You want to add anything on pre-flop?
No, just the same. I wouldn't expect to have seen this 3-bet. I think even in the chats that I use, which are 500 and L, it's not really ever a 3-bet. It might be like 5 or 10% or something. So at GG, where the rake is much higher, I again would just be disincentivized to be putting money into the pot unless I really want to. So yeah, I mean, maybe we can assume that villain 17 is a recreational. That's the only reason I would get in there. And the reason that is because a recreational is going to be calling hands that are going to be dominated against ace jack off. So hands like king jack off or queen jack off are supposed to just be full frequency folds, and a recreational will continue those. So that's why a hand like ace jack off is not going to be so bad against a recreational compared to a reg.
Yeah, I think it depends how you look at it. I think in theory, if you're gonna look on GTO Wizard charts, this might be a 3-bet a bit more than on normal 500 and out charts, just because you see sometimes it starts having flats on the small blind and then 3-betting hands a bit more polar, like this one. If you 3-bet this in theory, you're supposed to get this queen offsuit to fold quite often. But yeah, I do agree. I don't really play that strategy, and against the reg, I wouldn't 3-bet this either. Right, on the flop, if we assume we are against a recreational, I think I wouldn't bet this very often, because even though I have a gut shot, it still has some showdown value, and on this board that's very connected, I don't think we're getting many better hands to fold, or getting much protection from really anything, so yeah, I wouldn't be looking to start investing a lot of money into the pot with this hand out of position. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I overall agree. I would prefer to just check this back. We're going to be able to keep villain's range quite wide and weak if he's recreational. And I wouldn't hate a bet because I think on this board you're still going to get a recreational call in. You know, if they have all those queen jack off and queen jack suited, king queens, king jacks type of hands. But yeah, overall I would just probably play a check here with this hand.
Yeah.
Prefer to bet something like queen jack or king jack myself here, just because you're going to be able to get loads of his ace highs to fold, which is obviously great for that type of hand.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a bit, like, depending on the recreational, if he's a bit more aggressive, you know, if you bet, you do get all those hands to call you, but then you're going to have quite a hard time facing bets from those on later streets, I would say. We do check and we face a small stab. I think I would close to pure call here. I don't really see the point of doing anything else. I'm definitely not folding, and I think this is a bit too good to check raise. We probably have a bit worse showdown value hands to check raise, and a bit more equity. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just quite a standard call.
And now he goes something like 40% again. Here this spot is quite interesting because I still think there are going to be quite a bunch of draws available that we beat already, but on the other hand, I think for this size he could still be betting quite mergy, and I wouldn't be surprised if a recreational would start betting here hands like 9-8 and 7-8 and whatnot. So against that kind of mergy range, our hand is doing much worse, and against a 1/3, I think I would still continue here. Against this, I think it gets much closer. What would you do?
Yeah, I think it's quite a tough spot. I think this is going to be very close. I agree what you say with when he could be betting way too merged. Is obviously much worse for us. He still has potentially a lot of. Again, it depends if we know if he's a recreational and what the recreational type is. Because yeah, I would completely just base my decision on who this guy is. If I'm against an unknown, I think it's really close. I may just roll and just call sometimes, fold sometimes. I think it's just a close spot, and I'm not 100% sure on this spot.
We do fold. Yeah, I agree with you. It is quite close, and yeah, probably not a huge win or loss either way.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not advocating to use an RNG against recreationals. It's just because in this spot, I really am unsure about what the best choice is here, and I don't want to way over defend or way under defend, and so that's why I would be mixing here. But I wouldn't hate if it was, a pure call, pure fold either, because
Yeah.
I'm unsure of the spot.
Yeah, I guess if the more reads you have on the recreational, the more sure on the spot you can be, and it can then become a pure call or a pure fold. But yeah, against an unknown, I think either way is just fine. Should we go next then?
Yeah, let's do it.
We defend Queen Deuce against MP opening. We see he has a broken stack, so we can assume he's a recreational. On GG, I definitely think we should fold this against regulars, against the 3x from the big blind. Again, the rake is very high, and this hand, and the opening size is also very big, so this hands become unprofitable defense. Now, if we face a recreational, it's obviously going to be better to defend wider. Thoughts on pre-flop?
Yeah, I would just be folding pure pre-flop. I wouldn't ever really continue this hand. I think it's again, rake is really high at GG. We're facing a 3 big blind open. Even if this is a 2.5 big blind open, I think it's a fold. And then when it becomes 3, it's just even worse again. It's just not a great hand to play out of position, even against a recreational. So I would just look to pure fold this. Wouldn't be continuing personally.
All right. What if you turn a flush?
flop a flush draw, you mean?
Maybe we also turn a flush. Maybe we river flush. Maybe who knows? We also have straight draws. Okay. Yeah, but on pre-flop, I don't think. Again, I think there are different kinds of recreationals, and I guess even with GG rake, defending this is probably fine. Those are quite rare though, because I guess you would need someone who's opening pre-flop quite wide, but then playing very passively post-flop. I guess that kind of guy, it's probably good to defend his hand, but like usually recreational tendencies, like if they have certain pre-flop tendencies, they're often going to translate into post-flop. So yeah, it's rare
Yeah,
to find that type of
I think overall you're going to find more recreationals that are just high VPIP, low PFR, and then when they do open, they open for this bigger size, and it's more of usually a stronger range. You do just see random stuff in there as well, though. But yeah, I would just closer to chat on this one. Maybe defend a little bit more of the the offsuit Broadway type of region, which is going to make stronger top pair type of stuff against the recreational. But yeah, again, I would just I think we spoke about this spot.
Okay, goes check check. Turn is an ace, which is not very good for our range. Of course, it's probably terrible for our range, but for our particular hand, I think it's decent because now it brings us a gut shot. We still have quite a strong flush draw. Not sure if we want to bet here though, because I mean, I wouldn't hate going for an overbet and then always giving up on the river, because I think that could get some sixes, sevens, eights to fold that are already beating us, and then when we do hit the river, we are probably going to win a bigger pot. But like betting smaller here, I don't think it gets many better hands to fold, except for like some king high, better queen highs that maybe would see bet the flop already quite often. So yeah, I would either check or go for an overbet. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this spot we could play in a few different ways. And again, if we know who the recreational is, we can definitely use that to our advantage. I think here it'd be fine to just use an overbet or check strategy, and I think this hand would definitely just fit into a very nice overbet spot. Obviously, we have a gut shot, we have a flush draw. We're also going to be blocking some hands that are going to be called, like king queen off. Or queen 10 off, those type of hands. So it's nice in the way that we have a queen against a recreational. So yeah, I would be happy to just overbet this and not think too much about it. I also think that going for a small size is not going to be dreadful, because I think you could see a recreational continue a bit too often and then still overfold river. But yeah, personally, I would just go for an overbet or check here.
Yeah, I don't like to rely on, like, even if he continues too often on the turn and then overfolds river, it's like we already invested money on the turn to make him overfold the river, so it's not that much of a profitable spot, especially when we are out of position with a hand that's probably not great to double barrel. I prefer going for an overbet here, as you say, and just giving up on the river unless we hit.
Yeah, sounds good.
And we do find an overbet, we get called, and the turn brings all of our draws. And now we have to decide if we want to bet our straight or our flush. What would you what would you pick? Yeah, I think this is quite an interesting spot in terms of what sizing we want to choose, because yeah, I think a lot of people would just call an ace here to any size that's not overbet. But then, if they do fold an ace and just call better, we probably want to go a bit bigger. So yeah, I'm always like a bit... I think it's always quite close against unknown what sizing we want to use on this river. So yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts.
Against the recreational that that checks flop and then calls turn versus an overbet, I think he is just very often going to have just a top pair type of hand. I think that's a natural flop check and turn call versus the big sizing. I would imagine that most recreationals are going to be betting their flush draws on the flop. I think if they have a 2 in their hand, it's very often going to be bet just because it's connected to the 3 and the 5. And again, I don't think a recreational is actively thinking about this, but, I think they are just going to be more weighted towards top pair. So I'm just going to go for a size I think top pair mostly calls. And I think as close to pot as possible. I don't think I'd go over bet, because I think a recreational could sometimes be a bit worried about that. But yeah, I think like 21 big blinds here is going to be perfect.
Yeah, do you think they call so wide with just a pair? Because that's what I'm thinking here. No, it's like a 2 makes a straight. There are so many possible 2 pairs and flushes, straights there.
I think the thing to keep in mind here with the recreational is they may be opening too many offsuit ace-x hands. So is he going to fold ace-8 off with the ace-8 of diamonds, or ace-7 off, or ace-6 off with the 6 or 7 of diamonds? I think they're going to talk themselves into calling those hands a lot more just because they have a diamond, and they've seen their favorite streamer talk about blockers.
Yeah, that might be right. Let's see what we did here. We go like 3/4, 60%, I think. I don't mind this size. I guess we could go bigger. And it goes without a diamond. I don't know what
Nice.
his favorite streamer was talking about.
H2B says, hey, good luck. Thank you. Cataneda says, hello. All About Everything says, 8 a.m. study session. We're on the floor laughing. Well, we're in Eastern Europe here, so it's not quite the morning for us. What time is it? What, 3:30?
Yeah, it's
20
half
past,
four. It's
20 past 4 in the afternoon, so it's not so early for us.
4:20.
And then Cataneda says, pot is the instinctive sizing I would go for. Yeah, I think around pot here is just going to be a good sizing.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, should we jump into the next hand? Do you have anything else to add on that one?
No, seems good. Let's go.
Yeah, our student here was saying he had stats on this guy and he was playing something like 21-14. Wait, 43 winners of flop, so he was facing like a very, very big net in this scenario. So yeah, we call Queen 9 suited on the big blind about pre-flop. I think this could mix in some 3-bets against normal people, but yeah, against a very meaty guy, I wouldn't really 3-bet this. You should probably consider this spot as you're playing against someone who's opening maybe cutoff or a bit earlier.
I would say even earlier, maybe under the gun. And that's what I was just going to say, I think is quite interesting about pre-flop is that I think we could still just low frequency 3-bet this, because I think something like Queen 9 suited is a 3-bet still versus under the gun. And again, really low frequency. So I wouldn't have hated a pre-flop 3-bet, but yeah, I think calling is going to just be standard against a tighter opponent.
Yeah, I would say that's a bit too exaggerating, thinking that he's opening the same range as from under the gun, because even like meatier players, they realize they are on the button in position and that's just 2 people left behind. So I don't think they're going to start folding hands like Jack 10 off, Queen 10 off, King 10 off that are sometimes opened from... that are sometimes folded from under the gun. And
yeah, well, that would make our 3-bet even a little bit better then, right? Because he's going to have those hands to fold in his range.
Yeah. I don't say it's...
I'm not saying
bad,
you have to view this guy as opening from under the gun, but even if he is that tight, I think it's fine to still 3-bet sometimes. But
Yeah, of course. But yes, that calling is just standard.
okay.
We go for a check and we face overbet size on the flop. And I'm just thinking here how we should approach this type of hand, because someone who plays 21-14 is kind of like, I wouldn't call him a rag. I would like maybe treat him a bit more as a fish, in the sense that yes, he's tight, but I would maybe like to play my hand more than my range against such a guy. I don't think he's going to be very strong or thinking about poker at a deep level. So then I think I would like check raising here, but then if I'm thinking about my range and his range and how ranges interact, I probably don't want to have almost any check raise against this size. But yeah, like, I just think it's going to probably be very face up, and most of his range here is probably going to be like kings, aces, maybe ace queen. And yeah, I'd just like to go for max value. I also don't expect him to be like triple barreling 3 streets as a bluff very often, this type of player. But yeah, again, theoretically, I think it's just gonna be a call most frequently. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thought in this spot is that obviously with our hand, it's very easy whether we want to call or whether we want to check raise. I guess the EVs are going to be close, at least in theory. If we were playing against a, let's say, normal player who's playing this spot well. He should be overbetting with a lot of trash hands. So a hand like ace four off or ace three off with a heart is supposed to be an overbet at a high frequency. Even a hand like ace six or ace seven off at some frequency should be an overbet, and a bunch of other like completely trash hands. Again, something like king four, even king four of diamonds here should be an overbet at some frequency. So I would assume that a recreational or a nit is not going to be finding those type of flop overbets. So the first thing I would take away from this is that if I'm not here with queen nine and I'm here with a nine or I'm here with a five, I would way overfold this spot. So if I have, say, something like, I don't know, 8-9 of spades. In theory, this should be very close, against this overbet, and it should be called sometimes. I would just full frequency fold this because I don't think a nit is going to find as many trash hands on the flop as he should. And again, even with some of our much weaker queen X as well, I would just be maybe just folding as well. So something like queen two of diamonds, I would maybe, or maybe something like queen seven or queen six of diamonds, I would maybe just start to find some folds of those on the flop again, just because this is probably not the guy who's balanced on the flop like he should be, and those hands are just not going to be great against this size overbet. Even though if you look in a solver, you will see they're probably going to be close to full frequency defense against this size. You have to realize you're not playing against the solver. Now this spot, I think it's just really close. We could definitely just go for a check raise here. We could go for a call. I think we have to be aware he's going to be crushing this board with queens and queen nine and pocket nines, pocket fives. He's going to have all those hands at a higher frequency than us. So I think I would just more go for a call on the flop, and then when he continues on turns, look to put his hand into a check raise onto the turn more frequently. Because I would expect to see on bricks at least him continue for an overbet, or at least close to a pot size. And I think I would delay my check raises to the turn against this size.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that we could delay the check raises for the turn, but like also if you think about how his range should look like, and as you said, it should be quite polar and contain a lot of trash, and that's mainly the reason why we don't want to check raise much against these sizes, against normal ranges. Here this is going to be way more linear, and the more linear it gets, the more we can check raise if we have strong hands, because we're not like against the polar range is going to be, we're just getting better to call and a lot of trash to fold that had no equity anyway. Here we're probably ahead of most of his value range that's not going to fold. Because of and he's not gonna have trash, as you say. So because of that, I think we're gonna be way more incentivized to check raise. So I agree with you that we could delay check raise and do that on the turn. I also wouldn't really hate the check raise on the flop at all. I think that would be more than fine.
Yeah, I think actually check raising flop makes sense actually against this guy quite a lot. And then on brick turns, I would just be looking to go for just making this a two street value hand. Like probably looking to jam a bunch of bricks on the turn. Because we're supposed to be extreme. Like if he's going extremely polar, then we obviously are going to be driven by our very strongest value hands, and then our highest equity bluffs, which are going to be combo draws like 6-7 of hearts or 7-8 of hearts or Jack 10 of heart type of hands.
Yep. Okay, let's see what happens. We just go for a call, which, I think I do prefer raising. It's like, even the way that this board looks for him, there are so many draws available that we could have.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think he would fold ace king to maybe not even ace queen. Like, ace queen probably even less because he blocks more of our value on a break turn. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Going flop is check raise is good.
Well, we just call and we see this terrible turn now. We check and he goes for a 3/4 spot size bet. At this point I really dislike it, but I think I would continue calling just because I think he could still have ace queen, which I beat, and also even if he's a nit, he could still have some draws here like ace king, ace jack, Jack 10 of hearts, maybe even more draws. So, against this size, I think I would still continue. Even against something like aces, we still have some outs. I also don't expect him to be the kind of player to just triple misdraw when he misses. So, those are my thoughts here. What do you think?
So my thoughts begin with us checking. I think this card, in theory, should be maybe slightly better for him because he should bet some 5x on the flop for an overbet sizing, and we should fold a bunch of our 5x on the flop, only really continuing mostly with heart combinations. Now, when the 5 arrives on the turn and we're against the nit who's probably not finding as many of those 5x flop bets, I think we could start with a donk here, and I would start with a small donk just because I'm able to get value from worse hands like king queen or ace queen. I'm also able to target a lot of his draws, so if he has 6-7 or 7-8 of hearts, jack 10 of hearts, king jack, king 10 of hearts, all of those now, we're getting value from those hands. And then we're also not facing a much bigger sizing from his kings, kings, aces, pocket nines type of hands as well. So I think I quite like the turn donk for like 33%. And against a nit, I don't expect him to really be finding loads of bluff raises. I think a lot of those natural, high equity hands are just very often just going to be a call in position. So that's how I would have played this turn. But obviously, yeah, we didn't go for a donk, so I would just be calling.
We do call.
Yeah. When we just had a couple of comments in the chat. So Kathleen said, if I was in this spot, I'd fast play flop. There's lots of scare cards for his aces, kings, and ace queen on the turn. So yeah, I think I agree with you. There are just a lot of turns that just leave us in murky waters for sure. And Dean C says not a ton of bricks on the turn if you call. Yeah, again, I agree. I think again, even as we've seen here, a turn that pairs the board as well is not going to be great. So yeah, I think raising flop against this particular opponent is going to be better.
Turn that pairs the flop would be great, just not that one.
A what? Sorry?
I said a card that pairs the flop would be great, just not that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I do agree. Donking the turn is fine. Though I'm not sure how necessary it is because I think we're just facing a much tighter range than we would in general. So
yeah, it depends on who you think your opponent is, right? Because if this is the nittier type of opponent, maybe he's, the type of guy that views poker in. He's a little bit worried. He doesn't want to, face huge bets and will play quite face up. Generally, that's how nittier players play. I think just going for that 1/3 sizing just gets us to charge the hands that we're ahead of and also loses less against the hands that we're beat by. Now, when we check, we're also going to have the initiative on rivers, right, where we can continue to, either value bet for a small size or we can check. Now on the river, again, I would almost be advocating for a small donk here sometimes because we can still get value from worse hands and we can face a smaller size against his stronger hands. And again, I'm not saying all of this is necessarily GTO. But against this villain, I think it's going to be good. And donking on turn for a small size, I think is going to be fine, at least in theory as well,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But what I'm generally thinking about in this situation is who am I playing against and what is his actual range? And I think his actual range is going to be a bunch of draws that we're ahead of that have equity, and some worse hands, and then a few stronger hands. So I would just play my hand against that range the way I want it to play.
Yeah, and also like on the river, if you think about it, this doesn't really improve our range in any way. So it's not a donk spot in theory, but in practice, our villain is going to have like usually merging hands that he's going to check back, value hands, and then bluffs. And this is probably a great bluff catcher, but if we think he's like super tight starting from pre-flop and then already has a very tight range on the flop turn, and that he's not going to bluff river when he misses, then checking here is definitely not going to perform as well. And as Paul says, we can probably just think about this a bit out of the box and find a donk here.
Yeah, I mean, because otherwise you're just going to get into this situation now where he bets for 75% sizing. You're here with a hand that you think this makes a great bluff catch, But in reality, is this guy still bluffing enough on flop and on turn to get here with any bluffs that are going to wait up to the amount of times that he has, pocket fives, pocket nines, pocket queens, kings, aces, the queen fives, the nine fives, which are all in his range, And again, what I will say is maybe something like 9-5 isn't, because the board would be blocking that, but the other portions.
I mean, he's a 21-14. Even if the board wasn't blocking that, I don't open 9-5 on the button. I don't think he will.
Yeah, actually, I think the 9-5 is probably not meant to be an open. I play an anti-games.
And now he goes for a shove. I think I would just fold this. I would be looking to call against normal opponents, but against this guy, I just think we can deviate and not really have any bluff catchers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we have to take into account that this guy's 45 1-1 soft flop. He's extremely low PFR, so the guy just doesn't. The guy doesn't start off with enough weak hands in his range. Then he doesn't bet those for the size he does on flop. Same on turn, and then this overbet jam on river. I just fold.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see what happens. We do fold.
Nice.
Any questions in the chat?
No. Let's jump on to the next one.
Okay, before we jump into that, I would like to remind people that there is an discount available if you get a subscription for a month on Run It Once Elite, or essentially you can get a free month on top of that during the stream and a bit after if you use the code stream at checkout, so make sure not to miss that.
Okay, let's do it.
Here button opens, we go for a 3-bet on the small blind, and he goes for a 4-bet, which is a bit on the smaller side. I think this hand is just going to be probably break even. I think it's maybe gonna continue at a low frequency if we think our villain is 4-betting enough, but I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a low frequency mix against the normal size, which would be like 24.5, and this usually makes quite a big difference. So yeah, I think it's going to be slightly plus EV to continue or break even.
Yeah, I think it's just it's a really, really close spot. I imagine if it's here in this review, then we call. So let's
yeah, we do call. And the board is King 9-7 monotone. I actually have, I would say, some very good videos on Run It Once on playing this bot, especially a small blind, also as a button, these 4-bet bots, but I didn't really look at monotone boards. Intuitively, I would say they are probably better for the small blind overall, because he's going to 4-bet quite polar here, and he's going to have a bunch of offsuit hands. And also his flushes, like his 4-bet bluffs here should be something like Jack 9 sometimes, King, Ace King obviously, so a lot of his flushes are blocked by the board, but on the other hand, when the SPR gets so low, we don't really care about the flushes all that much, because it's not like we need to stack off weight lighter, and King X is still very, very good for him, so I don't think the fact that this is monotone changes the things that much, because it also blocks a lot of our flushes as well. So yeah, those would be my thoughts about like overall how ranges interact here. I think it can still bet for a 10% sizing, which is actually used in 4-bet bots quite often. I think you could still bet very, very frequently for this size. But yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't studied these monotone boards very in depth. What do you think?
I think I'll leave it with your thoughts at the moment, because yeah, I've not really done loads of studying 4-bet pots, and for sure not on monotone boards as well. And I'll just let you run through this one, because I'm just quickly going to pop to the toilet.
I feel so lonely now. Alright, we do decide to go for a call here. Usually in these 4-bet bots we want to we want to have a lot of check raises, but I'm not sure how much that applies on this monotone texture. And the lower the size is, obviously, the better the odds to call gets. So the more we want to check raise and the less we want to check raise and the more we want to call. Just for you guys to know, I don't really see the chat. So now that Paul is gone, if you have any questions, we're going to reply when he comes back. We go for a call. The turn's a king, which is quite interesting because this means, like, obviously, if we were beaten by a king, we are still beaten by a king, but this turn makes it actually less likely for him to have a king. We also block ace king here, which is quite good. So this is actually quite a nice turn to see. We check and he goes for a check back, and now river is a check. And I was wondering if this is, nice you did come back because gonna go back through this. So he bets.
You don't need to go back through. I was listening.
Okay. Yeah,
Keep
turn
it for the
goes
check.
check, and river is a jack. So I was actually wondering here if we would want to turn this into a bluff or not, because I still think he's gonna have hands like 10 sometimes and queens that are probably going to fold here to a shove. I doubt he's gonna have a king x very often. And we could still have flashes, we could still have hands like jacks with a diamond, nines, sevens, king x, which want to shove here. And then, obviously, if we maybe at the first look, it might look like we want to have a diamond when we shove, but we're not really gonna have offsuit hands here, so I can't really think of a hand with a diamond that wants to bluff, but then maybe we still have enough showdown value against hands like ace queen or I don't know. Still think he could have ace jack, stuff like queen stands that would fold, and it's kind of hard for us to find a lot of bluffs here. Maybe just 7x would be a better bluff. We have ace queen ourselves though, so yeah.
I agree with your thoughts. I think this hand could be a very nice bluff on the river. Because even those hands that we beat, he may not check back as well, So like ace queen may just be turned into a bluff by him. And I think there is quite a bunch of his range that we can get to fold. Like you said, those 10s, jack x, queens. So yeah, I think I wouldn't mind this as a bluff. I wouldn't mind as a check. I think I'd lean more towards bluff. And we've got a couple of things in the chat. So FF says, what stakes is this hand history?
This was 200 and now.
And then Dean says, in 4-bet pots, do we want to have a higher equity check raise like this 9, or if we have any 7s?
It depends on the board. Again, I'm not exactly sure on these monotone boards how similarly they work to rainbow boards, but like if this was a rainbow board, might be counterintuitive to some of you, but we should actually play just check raise or check fold. And yes, and maybe we would call some of the pairs on the board, but it's going to be a lot of folding even to this small size. So we're gonna check raise some 7x, some 9x. I think most of them would be indifferent, but then stuff like queens, jacks, even 10s, you're gonna see folding very often because they just block bluffs. They don't really have any good turns, don't have any good equity. So you could check raise here. It really depends on how connected the board is, and sometimes we just check raise and check fold. Sometimes we have some calls, but pairs are mostly going to be indifferent. That was the question. Yeah, I think I started rambling a bit.
Yeah, I thought you did too.
I'm sorry for that. But the question was if we do check raise pairs, right? Or?
In 4-bet pots, do we want to have higher equity check raises like this 9, or if we have any 7s? But yeah, maybe... Did you cover that question? Don't want you to go back over.
Well, we don't have no equity check raises. We can sometimes check raise some under pairs, but most of our hands that we continue with in 4-bet pots are going to have some kind of equity where we're actually folding a lot on this king high boards out of position.
And then FF says, if you want to bluff this hand, what size would you use?
I would shove. I don't think it makes sense to use any other. Like, we're basically saying we have trips plus.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that doesn't make sense to use any other size. And we're also trying to get him to fold, like, queens or a jack X, we can't go 1/3. We're not really getting better to fold with that size.
Cataneda says, I think the bluff line on the river is pretty optimistic. Feels like he's just going to call every pair with a diamond.
Why does it feel like that? Because if you think of our range, we're not going to have very many check raises, I don't think so, against such a small size on the flop. And we're going to have king X, right? We're going to have king queen, king jack. We're going to have jacks that are never going to fold the flop with the diamond. We're going to have nines, which are maybe check raising sometimes, but not all the time. Sevens are also going to be like a pure 3-bet pre-flop, and then a pure call to a 4-bet. So, and we're gonna have flashes like ace queen, ace 5, ace 4. We're gonna have a lot of value here. So I don't think he's going to be in such an easy spot with the pair plus diamond.
I don't think he'd be in such an easy spot either, especially if he's got pocket tens with a diamond or if he's got queens with a diamond. And again, we're not. If he calls those sometimes, then that's okay. He's still going to have 6 combos of those without diamonds, and he's going to have some jack X that folds, and yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be fine on the river.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a spot I would never want to bluff because I'm going to have loads of value here. So
Yeah, we're gonna have loads of value, but I'm thinking like if we just use our 7x maybe as a bluff, and then some ace queen that we have, if that's enough, or do we want to go as far as bluffing this one? Maybe we're gonna have some like other 9x, like 9-10, which might make.
Well, I think this is better than ace queen, because ace queen blocks some of the hands that you want him to fold with, like ace jack and pocket queen. So I know this blocks ace jack. Well, but like we're not blocking pocket queens.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so we check, which I'm not sure I like it. I think I do prefer bluffing. And he checks back 6 high, which is, well, I don't think he should do that, but... Anything else while on this hand?
No, all good. Let's jump into another one.
Okay, we open 5s, not sure to what size, I assume it's 3x. And we get 3-bet by the big blind. I think with this rake structure, 5s are gonna mostly fold here. I don't mind mixing in some calls, but yeah, it's definitely not a pure call on GG with GG rake. Anything else? Anything to add on pre-flop?
No, just agree with you. I'd sometimes more often than not be folding this hand.
Okay, we face 1/3 c-bet here, which I assume is going to be a range bet. I don't think we can fold any pair here. If you check this spot in a solver, it's actually going to be very high frequency call and very, very low frequency folds. We're just folding hands that have nothing, absolutely nothing to go with them, like 9-10 of hearts. But yeah, we're gonna call very frequently in this spot.
Okay, yeah, can continue.
Yeah, I can hear your keyboard though, it's a bit distracting. Yeah, we call. Wanna add anything? I suppose not.
No, not at the moment.
Turns an ace and he goes for a check. I think here, if we think of what we want to bluff, these low pocket pairs are going to be quite good candidates because sorry, I'm hearing some weird sounds coming from your mic. Is everything okay?
Yeah, it should stop now. I was typing.
Okay. Yeah, I think these low pocket pairs are quite good candidates to bluff, especially if we expect to face a range bet on the flop, because he's going to have some like even 10s, 9s in that sizing that are going to face quite a hard time here. Also, queens and kings are probably not going to be super happy to face a bet here and then an all-in on the river. We unblock some hands that are gonna call turn and then fold the river, and yeah, we have a gut shot, so some equity against better hands that call. Our showdown value isn't that great, so I think I would be looking to turn this into a bluff quite frequently. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would turn this into a bluff very frequently. We can get lots of better hands to fold. We also have equity as well. So, yeah, I think this is a good hand to bet with.
Yeah, unfortunately we can't see the size, but we see it here. We go for a big bet, which is probably the right size, because here we're probably saying we have ace queen plus. I don't think, I think even ace queen is going to be mixing. So yeah, quite a polar spot. I think I like betting big. Do you have any thoughts on the sizing?
No, I think it's good. I like it.
And yeah, I think this is quite an interesting spot. On a spade river, I think I would always bluff, but I'm wondering, like, if we bet so big on the turn and they do call, is this might, and the river is a brick. I mean, this, I think this might be a spot that's actually overcalled, because I expect them to slightly overfold the turn, and then when they get here, they probably have an ace a bit too often. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure if we should be looking to bluff as wide as the solver would be on a break here. What do you think?
Yeah, my first thoughts were that this seven of spades is not going to be that great for us because I would imagine a lot of our flush draws are going to be just checking back turn on an ace. So when we bet, I imagine we don't have a lot of flush draws, and so I would have been more careful on the turn. I also had the thought process that, which was the same as you, just before we saw the river, that when we get called in this spot, I think people are generally going to be overfolding. So when they call, they're going to have a tighter range. So yeah, on this river, I'm not sure if I want to like continue bluffing with pocket fives here. Um, I mean, even before we saw the seven of spades, I was thinking because they're so tight on the turn, maybe I would even think about just checking back pocket fives on a brick river because we can be ahead of some, maybe some king 10 or king queen type of hands. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's really close. I think on this river, I'm not sure whether I want to continue with this bluff now.
I think a spade is actually not that bad for us. As you say, it really depends on how we construct our turn batting range. It's just that in the practice, I don't really expect people to check shove on you a lot on the turn. So then I think we can bet a bit more of our flush draws than a solver would. Um, so I think we would have some value on this river, and then we also have. I don't think we need a flush to shove here with this SPR. We can definitely shove even if we have like ace three. I think that's gonna be strong enough. Stuff like ace jack, we're gonna have some twos, some threes, even if at low frequency jacks. We are gonna have some flushes. We're gonna have 4 5. So if we're thinking this through theoretically, I think we're gonna actually have quite a lot of value here. But in practice, if, as we both said, they overfold the turn, I'm just not sure they're gonna have enough folds here.
Yeah, a couple of questions in the chat or comments. Cataneda says, I don't know if I agree with them having an ace. Do they really check call turn with lots of ace X? I think that could definitely be the case. Because they're supposed to be check raise. They're supposed to be three betting pre-flop with a lot of weak ace X, and then they bet for a small size on flop, which could be indicative of a range bet. So if they are range betting those, ace six off, ace seven, ace eight off, or ace five off type of hands on the flop, maybe they check them on the turn now, and then obviously they're going to be check calls. And then Dean said, didn't they check raise the turn? No, they just checked the turn and we bet and they called. So yeah, I don't know. I think we could have some bluffs here, just thinking that if they do have a bunch of ace X and the weaker portions of the ace X range, that is going to get here too often. But I don't know. My first instinct was they may overfold turn, but again, I'm not completely sure on this.
Yeah, I think it really depends on. And you can't know that. That's the thing. Like, if you expect him to always fold turn with like Jack X, Queens, Kings, then obviously this is gonna be a terrible bluff on the river. But if you think they're gonna call, then those kind of hands, then this is quite a good bluff because, as I said, on the turn it unblocks pretty much everything that calls turn and then folds river. But yeah, because we can't know for sure, I think we should probably try to play this spot close to theory, and I think in theory it's gonna be a decent bluff, especially with the spade. But yeah, probably not massive if you lose or gain either way, I would say.
Okay, let's see results then.
We do shove and he calls with
ace four.
Wah, wah, wah. Okay, should we do this as our lesson?
Yeah, let's do it. I was just trying to think of what I thought of his bluff, what of his bluff catch on that river. Then we don't need to go too deep into it. I'm not sure if I like the 4 in his hands, just because we should be bluffing with some pocket 4s. He does obviously block 4-5, but yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's jump into the next hand.
We 3-bet squeeze to 9 big blinds against. Well, this guy is definitely recreational. I'm not sure about this guy who opens. And we go to a flop of ace, queen, 5. Monotone. I think here with our range we should be quite careful because yes, we have ace king, but we are 3-ways. Equities are gonna shift, and in general, they're probably going to be quite ace high heavy. So yeah, 3-ways here. I think this is a board that we should be quite careful, and I don't necessarily think ace king should be a pure bet here. I think it's fine to bet sometimes, but I would mostly lean towards checking. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's close. I think we can do either. We can definitely just find some small bets. I don't mind checking as well. Yeah, I just think it's a close spot.
Yeah, we go for a check. There's a 5, and now the recreational goes for a really small bet. I don't really see the point of raising here. We're definitely not folding. I think I would just pure call this. Not much else to say. What about you?
Yeah, I would pure call here just to keep villain 6's dominated range in here. So he's gonna have some, worse ace-x. He's gonna have some one heart type of hands that'll call versus sizing. So yeah, just gonna be calling here and hopefully getting a little bit more EV from the other person in the pot. And then river, if the guy shoves, I think we just have an easy call, right?
You have a dog. Tienes un perro.
No. Yeah, on this river now, I'm just going to be clicking call against the recreational. He can have worse ace-x that is doing this. He can have, some pairs with a heart that are turned into a bluff, or maybe he still just bluffs with some 10x that was bluffing on the turn as well. So, yeah, I don't think we have to talk about this one too much unless you have any other different thoughts.
Well, I would say we don't have to talk about this too much, but if we post this on our YouTube, I think our YouTube chat pros are gonna say, "Oh, this is obviously a value bet. What are you ever bidding here? You should definitely fold. King Jack makes a straight. That he can have a 5." Yeah, but we do end up calling, and he shows up with 4. So yeah, sorry, chat pros.
Cataneda says, ¿Usted habla español?
Sí, yo aprendo español ahora con Duolingo, pero no hablo muy bien. Puedes enseñarme. Was that good? I think that was decent.
Tu pedo.
That's all he can say. And he's very jealous that I'm learning Spanish. Doesn't seem to make it.
Okay, I think that's going to be everything for this stream, right?
Yeah.
What's the last hand?
Well, we have some more hands, but it's been an hour, so yeah, I think we can wrap it up here and save some more interesting ones for the future streams. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. If you want to keep in touch with us, maybe join some more of these sessions or send us hands, feel free to join our Discord. That post going to link in the chat, and also don't forget there is a Run It Once offer available, so if you sign up for a month of Essential or Elite, you can get a free month on top using the code STREAM at checkout. And this is not going to be available more after a lot of time after the stream, so yeah, make sure you...
Yeah, one thing I'd just like to add is if any of you guys would like to see some of your hands featured on this stream, you can do so in the Run It Once forum section. So if you go to, I think it is Chatter or Other section, you'll find this. You'll find a thread dedicated to this stream, and you can have some of your own hands reviewed as well. So thanks for everyone for joining, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, it's a pinned thread, so you should be able to find it quite easily.